H2K Infosys provides world-class online IT training, staffing, and software testing solutions to customers worldwide. H2K Infosys, how we are different from our competitors. 100% job-oriented training, hands-on project work, cloud test lab, resume preparation and review, mock interviews, robust syllabus, one-time fee and lifetime access to classes, access to recorded sessions of live classes. H2K Infosys has won the trust of thousands of students worldwide. For a free demo class, visit us at h2kinfosys.com.
Okay. So let's quickly summarize what we have discussed from the beginning of the class till now. I'm going to do a very quick summary. So we learned about, I'm just repeating again, we learned about installing SQL Server software, and we learned about what are the data types we have, and also we saw what are the operators we have. Okay, and then we learned what are the different types of commands we have, like we have DML, DDL, DCL and TCL commands. If you are doing anything related to table definition, like create, alter, drop and truncate, that belongs to DDL, data definition language. And if you are playing around with the data, then that comes under DML statements. So under DML we saw like select, insert, update and delete statements. And data control language is like giving privileges and taking back the privileges. So we saw about grant and revoke. And transaction control language, we saw that you are committing a transaction or revoking rolling back a transaction. So commit and roll back belongs to transactional control language. And then we saw, after discussing types of commands, we saw that what is the difference between SQL authentication and SQL and Windows authentication. So we learned this authentication, and then we learned about how to write the queries. So how to filter the records or writing queries. So we learned that how to write a queries between like, join and order by, top, n and between, and we learned all those things. And then we also learned about constraints which we have. So like we learned about primary key, we learned about check constraint, we learned about not null constraint, we also learned about identity column. Okay, so these are the few things. We also learned about how to add a foreign key reference. So we also saw that. Okay, and after that we learned about what are the different types of joins we have. So we learned that we have inner join, and we have left outer join, and then we saw that right outer join. We also learned about full join, which is a combination of left join and left outer join and right outer join. It's just full join. And we saw that we also saw one more join called cross join. Okay. And then we learned about views. What are the types of views? I mean, what is the advantage of using views? And security wise, what do you think is the advantage of views? And a view is like a virtual table, and if you want to restrict the users from, or if we are using a constantly used query and you don't want to write the complex join and again, what you can do is you can make it as a view, and you can do select star from that view. And we also learned that if you are updating a view, it is going to update a table if it is only from single table and if it's a simple query. Okay. And security wise, the advantage of using a view is if you don't want to give full access for a person for a table, what you can do is you can create a view for using a where condition which only shows some records, and you can give access for that view to the user. So this is about view. So after that we discussed on functions, where we created factorial of a number by passing some value. So we learned that we have table value function and scalar function. And I also showed you a quick summary on what are SQL string functions. Okay, So this is the quick summary of what we have learned so far in this course. So today we'll be discussing on SQL Server stored procedures. I'm not going to start today about database testing concepts. So these are about the topics which we have discussed so far. And today we'll see on SQL Server stored procedures, and then we'll proceed. We'll have a Q&A session, and then freshly we'll be starting with database testing concepts from the next class. So I thought today we can start, but stored procedures will take time. So all of you should be clear on these topics. So anyone wants me to explain anything in these topics? Go through the recordings.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I had problem with the last class understanding functions and everything that you were teaching. It was something that was brand new for me.
Okay. I'll quickly summarize today on the functions, and because stored procedures and functions are the syntax will be a little bit same. So what I'll do is for the first 10 minutes I'll summarize on functions, and then we can proceed with stored procedures. Okay. And I got another question like last class will be putting in the videos. Yes, we'll be putting the videos in the last class. So yeah, I have already shared with them. I think they will they'll put the video, I mean maybe by today or tomorrow. So we'll be adding the video. Okay, so any other questions? So one question is like to explain the functions again. Okay, so in the last class, for those who missed the last class, I think I saw like 3-4 students have missed the last class. Maybe it's because Saturday or something. So in the last class we discussed on functions, SQL Server functions, so which I'm going to summarize now again, and then we'll proceed with stored procedures. Okay. Any other questions other than those who missed the previous class, which I'm going to summarize again? So other than that, any other questions? So whenever you find time, please go through the recordings. We are sharing all the recordings with all of you. So please spend some time and try to understand, because once we start the database testing, we'll be focusing on how to test different scenarios and how to write test cases, all those scenarios. So these are the things which we discussed so far on the development aspects. Okay. So any other questions? Okay. Now let's get started. Let's discuss on functions for today, and then we'll get started. We'll discuss on stored procedures. And I have a question. I have another question from students saying like, do we write test cases for validation rules? Yes, we write the test cases. I'll be showing that how to write the test cases. Okay, I think we have everyone has joined, so let's get started. So let me open SQL Server Management Studio. And then let me connect. Okay, so primarily functions are used for if you want to write some if you want to create a reusable component, or if I'm just summarizing what we discussed in the previous class about functions. So primarily functions are used as a reusable components which you want to use again and again in your stored procedures or wherever you want. If you want to call any number of times, you don't want to write the code again and again, we normally go for functions. For example, let me write some logic where we will be adding two numbers. So here I'm going to write, so the database which we are using is dbt24th May batch. So let me right click on this database and then click on new query. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to declare a variable, which we already know that. So I'm going to declare a variable. So declare at the rate fn, first number I'm going to give as integer, and then I'm going to declare another variable at the rate sn, integer, and then I want to add these two numbers. So for storing the sum, I need one more variable, declare @sum integer, and here I'm writing set @fn is equal to 5 and set @sn is equal to 10. Now how to write the sum? So set @sum is equal to @fn plus @sn, and then I'll be printing the value, print @sum. Okay. Now if I execute this, so I'm going to add two numbers 5 and 7. So if I execute this, I will see the output as 15. So I'm seeing the output here, which is 15. Now I just gave the variable name. So this is a variable. So here in normal in programming, I got a question from what is this fn and sn. So normally in programming languages, we declare variable like this. We declare like this int age, or we declare as string name. Okay, like this we declare in normal programming languages like C++, Java, C#, or C language. We declare like this. But here in SQL Server, we declare variables like this. So we normally declare variables like this. Declare. I'm giving the variable name. I'm giving the variable name as @fn. So fn is for first number. Okay, and sn is for second number. So what I'm doing here is I'm executing this. So I wrote a small code snippet. I'm executing this for adding two numbers. Okay, now tomorrow, what I'm doing is I have not saved it. I removed it, and tomorrow I'm going to log into the SQL Server Management Studio again, and I have a requirement where I have to add two numbers. So for example, I'm disconnecting from the Management Studio. Okay, and if I want to write the component again, so when I log into SQL Server Management Studio, I need to, for adding two numbers, I need to write the code again. So I have not saved it, or I don't have the query right away, so I need to write the code again for adding two numbers. So instead, if I want to reuse the code snippet which I have for adding two numbers, in that case, what I can do is I can make this query, whatever I have written here, this one, I can make this as a function. So I can save this as a function, and then I can pass the two parameters, first number and second number. For that function, I can add. So primarily, adding a function is like you are creating a reusable component which can be called any number of times, and whenever you want, you can call it. And it will be saved in your database here. So we have something called programmability, and inside that you have a folder called functions. So inside that it will be saved. Okay, and inside your scalar valued functions it will be saved. So let me delete this add numbers. Now I'm going to make this as a function. So let's try to understand how I can convert this as a function. So if you see the PDF which we have, which I sent you, all of you, the PDF file, let me open that PDF file. In that we have some examples for functions. So let me open that. Okay, so here this is the syntax for creating a function. So you need to write create function, function name, and you need to write the parameters. So for adding two numbers, I'll have two parameters. Okay, and returns. So once you add the two numbers, that will return integer as a sum. So I need to write returns integer, and I need to write something like this. So what I'm going to do now, I'm copying this syntax, and then I'm going to paste it in my SQL Server Management Studio. So here I'm going to paste it. Now I don't have, I'm adding two numbers, so I'll remove the name this factorial. So I'll write here add numbers. Just for the syntax, I copied the code from there, and here I'm going to put here @fn, @fn, and SQL Server is not case sensitive, so int or integer, both are same in SQL Server, and @sn int. So I created a function with two parameters, @fn int and @sn int, and here this one, whatever you see here, is only having one parameter. Okay, but because for factorial, if you want to find one number is enough. Input one number is fine. So here I'm having two numbers, and then what I'm doing, I have here returns integer, and then what I'm doing here, begin. So let me remove this code. So let me remove this code, and I'm going to put our code, which is this one. I just need to add it. So for that I need to declare sum. So Control C, I'm putting here, and then I have to write here set sum is equal to. So you don't need to declare these two variables because these are already declared here. So let me put this here. Okay, and then I need to return this sum. Okay, that's all. So I don't want this code anymore. For this function add numbers. So these two are the parameters, fn and sn are the parameters, which returns an integer, and the integer which is returning is actually sum. So let me execute this and see if we get any error. So I'm not getting any error. So I got this executed. Normally, so if you refresh this scalar valued function, so right click on this, refresh it, you can see that I have here add numbers. So we created this reusable component. So now what I'm doing here, now if I exit, close on this, so now if I open my management studio again, so let me close this as well. If I open SQL Server Management Studio, the function is saved now. I don't need like previously, I don't need to type the query or the code snippet which I have. I don't need to type it again because I have it as a function. So let me expand this database 24th May batch, and I can go click on programmability and store procedures, and I can inside functions, inside scalar valued functions, I can see that add numbers. So if you want to call this method, all you need to do is just drag and drop it here, and then write select before this. Okay, and pass the parameters here. So you need to pass the parameters here. So there are two parameters. One is 5, 6. That's it. This is how we normally call a function. If it is returning a single value, if the function is returning a single value, you need to call like this select, and you need to tell dbo is anywhere for database object and add numbers, and you need to pass the parameters. So if I execute this, I can see that 11 is output. You can give the alias name here as sum of numbers, and you can execute this. See, now I'm getting here sum of numbers, which is 11. Okay, so this is how you normally call a function. So just a function is a reusable component which can be called wherever you want, and this is how we call a function. Select, we are only using select because here it is not returning a table. Sometimes functions can return table also. In that case, you cannot write select. You need to write select star from. For example, let me create a function of which returns a table. Okay, let's write here select star from employee, and let me execute this. I'm going to write a query inside a function which returns, so select star from employee where department is equal to IT. Okay, so I'm going to write a query inside a function which returns me based on the department which I'm passing here. So what I can do for that, so let me copy the same syntax which I have. So if you want to create a function, just copy the syntax, this one for the syntax, and then you don't need to remember the syntax anyway. You can, as long as you know how to write the code, syntax anyway you'll find it over the net. So just write a new query and then copy this, and then remove all the code whichever you have from the begin and end. So let me remove this, and here I want to find, I'm not going to return anything here. So if you see inside this, we have two types of functions. So the first one which we are seeing here is scalar function, scalar value function, which returns a single value. So scalar valued functions are the functions which return a single value, like how we saw adding two numbers, or it can even return a table. So for returning table, so this is actually a scalar valued function. So for returning a table, we have this function, very simple function we have, get department wise employees. So I'm passing here. Is my voice is not clear? Hello? Yeah. So I don't know. I think you have some problem with your internet settings. So from others, I'm getting saying like it's clear. Okay. Okay. So now what I'm doing now is I'm trying to get the values. So by passing department ID, I want to get the values. So here this function is actually returning a table. So that here, if you see here, I'm writing here returns table. So when you have a query like select star from employee, or when you have something like select star from any table, that is returning a table. So in that case, you need to write here returns table. So this is called table valued function. So let me copy this, or anyway, we have already here. We already have tried to write it here. So here I need to write returns table, and I need to write here get employees by department. Get EMP by department. I'm writing this function name as get EMP by department, and here I'm writing as @dept ID. I'm passing the parameter department ID, which is varchar 20. Let me give some varchar 20 here. Okay, and here what do I need to write? I need to write here select star from employee where department is equal to @dept ID. That's all. So now let me execute. I don't want to write return fact here, because anyway select star from employee itself is returning. So now let me execute this function. So now let me execute this function. Returns table as begin and end. Yeah, this is fine. This is perfectly fine. So let's check for the syntax. Anything went wrong here? Okay. Okay, so for table valued functions, we are not writing here begin and end, whereas for normal functions, we are writing begin and end. So let's put this query inside. Brackets. I'll again verify this. Okay, so one more point which I need to say here is when you want to retrieve values from a table, we hardly use table valued functions. So we only use scalar valued functions. For table valued, if you want to retrieve some data like this, we normally go for stored procedures. We don't use functions for returning some values. Okay, so now let me execute this, and we are getting one more error. So just a second. Yeah, we don't need here this one. Let me execute this. What is the mistake we are doing? What is the syntax difference between this and this one? Returns table as written. Okay. Okay, I got it now. Okay, so we are not giving as return. Okay, let me execute this. And here I don't need to give the semicolon. Remove this here. Yeah. Okay, so anyway, this is how we create a table value function. So I created this table value function. So I'm sure you will rarely use it. You will be using normal scalar valued function, like how we saw finding a factorial of a number, how we saw about adding two numbers. So I have used numerous table valued functions, scalar valued functions, but I have not used much on table valued functions. For this, we'll be using stored procedure. So I'll tell you how to use a stored procedure in some time from now. Okay. So this is a simple table valued function which is returning a select query. So here if I want to write a query, if I want to call this function, we cannot write like before. So let me expand this. let me refresh this table valued functions, and inside this we are going to see here get EMP by department. So if you want to call this, here I need to write select. Previously we just wrote select dbo dot and we passed the value here like this, and we passed here IT, or we passed there two numbers, adding two numbers. But here we cannot write select because this is returning a table, so I need to write select star from. So this is how we call a table valid function. So let me execute this. See, now I'm seeing only IT employees. If I pass here admin, I'll see only admin employees. So if I execute this, I'm seeing only admin employees. Okay, so that is the use of writing functions. A function is a reusable component which can be used any number of times, and primarily the functions are actually three types. We are going to discuss only two types. One is table valued function and the other one is scalar valued function, and we have other type called aggregate functions anyway. So we are only discussing on table valued functions and scalar valued functions. So the way we call scalar valued function is slightly different from the way we call table valued functions. So scalar valued functions, you don't need to write select star from, you just write simply select what is the function we have? We have add numbers. So or if you have factorial, you just put the select factor function name and you will pass the value 4. So this is the way for calling table valued function, and this is the way for calling scalar valued function. So if I execute this, I can see that 24 is the factorial. Okay, now is it clear for all of you what is the use of functions and what are the two types of functions we discussed, and what is the syntax for writing a table valued functions? Okay, so you don't need to remember the syntax, you don't need to by heart it, or because normally whenever you are writing the table, a function or something, we might forget like whether we need to write returns here or we need to write return here, or we don't need to remember the syntax. So you can refer the PDF which I sent, in case if you want to write a table valid function, just go to this section and copy this and paste it and modify this query and modify this parameter. Okay, so this is about functions. So okay, any other questions you have on this? Okay, normally we use select query to call functions, so there is no other way for calling functions, so we have to use select query to call functions. And other ways you can call from the code anyway, that is out of the context for database testing. So I have mentioned here how to call the function here. So if you see here, this is how we write C# code for calling a function. Anyway, you don't need to worry about that. These functions are written by developers. So this function is normally written by developers, not the tester. Okay, so for those who didn't get this PDF document, I think I have sent to all of you. So I am repeating again. For those who didn't get the PDF document, just ping me, just drop a test mail to me. I'm just giving my mail ID. So anyway, database testers need not write these functions, but I'm just telling because we need to know how to write small functions in case if required. The reason why we are discussing all the development efforts is the first thing. If you want to write any reusable code, see, we need not do hardworking, so we have to do smart work. So if you know how to write queries or how to write joins, all those things, you can write your queries and you can make your life easier for testing. So you don't need to open the table, you don't need to search for a column or search for some data, or you don't need to write select star from and see whether the record has been inserted properly or updated properly or not. You just write queries and you can reuse them. So database testers need to know how to write joins, how to write, and also if you have some idea on development efforts like how to create functions or types of functions we have, that will definitely help you as a tester. Okay, I'm sure you will not write functions anytime if you are a tester, but still if you know it, so that will give you some confidence level. So that is the reason why we have included this in this course. Okay. So we are done with almost around how many classes we completed. So okay. Now, for example, assume that we need to do any. So normally functions are used not to update any records in the database. Functions are used like the functionality which we saw, like adding two numbers or retrieving, doing some manipulation like factorial or any logics. Like that is a use of functions where we'll create some reusable component for some specific functionality. But if you want to do any updations for tables, if you want to delete some records from the tables, or if you want to update some, for example, if you want to update salary of employees who belongs to IT with some percentage. So in that case, we normally go for writing stored procedures. We don't use functions for the functionalities where updating or deleting or anything specific to table is included. Okay. So let's try to understand. Let's try to write a simple stored procedure. Okay, so I'll tell the requirement. Let's try to understand. Now here, if you see here, I have a question for all of you. So I'm going to write here select star from employee. Now, how can I get the age of employees? So I have date of birth. So how to get the how to print actually the current date? Anyone knows how to print the current date? Yeah, it is get date. So select. I need to write here get date. Okay, so if I write here select get date, I'm going to see here get current date. Now, if I want to do age of employees, what I need to write here is so let's try to understand how to get the current date. Okay, anyone knows how to find? See, in this table I have date of birth of employees. So can anyone help me how to find age of these employees? That's a good thing. Get date minus, yeah. So we have date time functions. So for example, let me show you one PDF which I have. So I'll be sharing this as well. Just a second. I'll pass the record. Sorry, don't have anything in your mind saying like I am a database tester, why I should know all these things. Okay, so definitely you will realize later when you become when you start database testing. And okay, so this is how you can write. You can use this function datediff. All you need to do is you need to tell whether you want a difference in years, months, or days, and then you need to pass two dates. This is not necessarily to be get date. You can give any date here. Okay, even I can copy this and I can paste it here. Now, can you tell me what is the difference here? So I'm giving 5 here. Can you please tell me what is the difference here? If I execute this, what will be my output? Yeah, it is 4 because 1st Jan and 5th Jan I'm mentioning day here. So if I execute this, I'll see the output as 4. So that is the use of datediff. Okay. So I have a question. I got a question here. So we don't need to verify. I got a question saying like, do we need to verify? Is it giving correct date? Do we need to verify again? So SQL Server will give the correct date. You don't need to verify again. That takes your system current date and time. So the moment you write select get date, it will take your time. It will take your date and time from the system. So it is proper date only. You don't need to verify it again. So if you see here, okay. So this is about get date. So I'm getting another question.
H2K Infosys provides world-class online IT training, staffing, and software testing solutions to customers worldwide. H2K Infosys, how we are different from our competitors. 100% job-oriented training, hands-on project work, cloud test lab, resume preparation and review, mock interviews, robust syllabus, one-time fee and lifetime access to classes, access to recorded sessions of live classes. H2K Infosys has won the trust of thousands of students worldwide. For a free demo class, visit us at h2kinfosys.com.